Dragon is capable of carrying up to 7 passengers to and from Earth orbit and beyond. It is the only spacecraft currently flying that is capable of returning significant amounts of cargo to Earth and is the first private spacecraft to take humans to the space station. Dragon is fully autonomous, which means that it flies itself, but it also features full manual override capabilities in case of emergency. Standing at almost 27 feet tall from bottom of the trunk to the top of the nose cone, Crew Dragon is composed of 2 main elements: the capsule, which is designed to hold crew and pressurized cargo, as well as an unpressurized section, which is known as the trunk. The nose cone at the top of the capsule protects the docking system and also the guidance navigation control system, which is the system that's being primarily utilized right now as Dragon is approaching the International Space Station. That nose cone opens for docking and remains attached to the space station, attached to the Crew Dragon spacecraft, unlike previous versions of Dragon, and that helps toward our efforts toward reusability. Now, opposite of the nose cone is the trunk. It provides attachment points for Falcon 9, the Dragon capsule, and cargo. One half of the trunk is covered in solar panels. That's the black side of the trunk on the exterior. And those provide power to Dragon during flight and while on station. The other half contains a radiator, and it rejects heat from the active thermal control system to space using SpaceX's new Pika tiling technology.
Node 2 area for docking and hatch opening, as well as getting the required exercise for the day. And here we have a new view of Dragon approaching the space station from the International Space Station itself. Again, we are looking at docking exactly an hour from now at 8:10 a.m. Central Time. This view from the International Space Station while Dragon is still 630 meters away. You might have seen a little bit of lighting change. We are now entering into an orbital daytime. Again, we see 16 sunrises and sunsets a day aboard the International Space Station, moving at 17,500 miles per hour, giving us an even better view of Dragon as it gets closer, now about 500 meters from the orbiting lab. Again, we're heading toward waypoint 0. That'll be at 400 meters below the space station. We are now at 480 meters below the space station. The crew will not stop at waypoint 0. They will continue to move through. Once they make their way to waypoint 1, there will be a continued go-no-go to allow Dragon to begin its approach to waypoint 2. That's located inside the keep-out sphere about 20 meters away from the space station. We do not have to hold at waypoint 1. All of the systems have checked out, and so we have that opportunity to continue moving toward waypoint 2. However, we do conduct a hold at waypoint 2 just to make sure Dragon is completely aligned with the international docking adapter on the Node 2 zenith or space-facing port. So at that 20-meter distance, Dragon will slow itself down even further, bringing its approach in and eventually make initial soft contact with the adapter soft capture ring. That'll retract and bring Dragon in for the hard capture sequence. Since NASA opened up the space station for commercial activity in 2019, we've continued to work with private industry to prepare for the future of low Earth orbit. And our long-term goal is to be not just the provider of a low Earth orbit destination, but to be a customer. We want to be one of many customers purchasing commercially owned and operated services. So we need to work together today to ensure this path of tomorrow. Enabling these private astronaut missions helps us to refine and mature any of the processes we need for that future. So our NASA astronauts are working side by side with
Dragon
private and
SpaceX
national
on the big loop.
astronauts.
Approach 0 has started and trajectory has converged on waypoint 1. Expected arrival at waypoint 1 is per your 4 displays.
Dragon copies.
So at the heart of Axiom Space is the mantra to build history, to expand access to low Earth orbit for all. And so we're dedicated to creating partnerships with companies that you wouldn't typically expect to hear about going to space, to grow the volume of those who can conduct meaningful research and research on board and outreach as well about science and everything else included in that. So a lot going on up there, and they're certainly going to have their hands full once they dock, which we should be seeing shortly here.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward to it. Look at this. This is our first view inside the Dragon capsule. I love this view. So on the left-hand side would be our commander, Peggy Whitson, and on the right-hand side of that view was pilot John Schaffner. Now, this view is also very cool because this is looking at the International Space Station from the Dragon. We don't require them to put their visors down until they're closer to the space station for that docking procedure. So they're still hanging out, continuing to monitor Dragon's progress. Once we get closer, I definitely want to keep an eye on to those various ports. As we mentioned, we did a port relocation maneuver for the Crew 6 capsule.
Dragon station on the big loop. C2V2 link reconfiguration complete.
Dragon copy. C2V2 config complete.
As I mentioned, we did a port relocation maneuver for the Crew 6 capsule, which is Dragon in Denver. It was relocated to the Node 2 forward port, and we should be able to see that as we get closer. And I just love it when there is a Dragon capsule getting a view of another Dragon capsule that is on station. We had that view during the Crew 6 docking, if I remember correctly. So this is a live view coming to us from the International Space Station of Dragon Freedom as it approaches.
A great view of those thrusters firing on Dragon as we are at waypoint 1, 220 meters away from the International Space Station, specifically directly above the space station. And inside Dragon right now, we have our 4 private astronauts, Peggy Whitson, the commander, pilot John Schaffner, Rana Barnawi, and Ali Arkhani.
With you on the big loop.
Pri range 208 meters and decreasing attitude as expected.
We copy and concur from the ground.
Dragon's thrusters continue to fire. We are now less than 200 meters away from the space station. We have passed through waypoint 1 as well as the keep out sphere. And the keep out sphere is that 200 meter radius around the International Space Station, another invisible boundary that helps us monitor our arriving and departing vehicles. The next pause for Dragon will be at waypoint 2. This is a hold point. That's 20 meters away from the International Space Station when we move in toward final docking. In this view of Dragon Freedom, you can see the hatch or the nose cone is opened and a good view of those 4 forward bulkhead thrusters. Those are used for the larger burns. We are now using the 12 service section Draco thrusters. These are for more fine-tuned attitude maneuvers, especially as we get closer to the International Space Station. The nose cone protects those thrusters as well as the docking mechanisms aboard Dragon. That self-capture ring now beginning to retract and pull Dragon in toward the International Space Station. Docking coming as the space station itself was flying 262 statute miles northeast of Japan.
And correction on last, we're still waiting on attenuation.
As we see a sunrise in the background, this view of Dragon Freedom with the Ax-2 crew aboard docked to the Node 2 Zenith port on the International Space Station. Again, that docking coming at 8:12 a.m. Central Time. The crew inside are now out of their suits. They are preparing for ingress to the International Space Station. Again, this is a process though, so we are pressurizing the vestibule, the space between the two spacecraft. And if you see some color changes, that's because the International Space Station and Dragon are now flying into an orbital sunrise. They are 268 statute miles over the South Pacific Ocean. Now that they're docked, these two will travel 17,500 miles per hour together, seeing 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. So the Ax-2 crew is certainly in for a treat for their planned 8-day stay.